Welcome back to another edition of the Educational AD Podcast, this time featuring the FIAAA Insider. We couldn't do this without the incredible support of our sponsors, and we want to start by saying thank you to all of them. First, to our diamond sponsor, Varsity Brands, including BSN, Varsity Spirit, and Herff Jones. Varsity Brands, elevating student experiences in sport, spirit, and achievement. We also want to thank our platinum sponsors, Ephesus Lighting, innovating a brighter future at every level. Gilman Gear, always a step ahead. Camp Mobile, where teams communicate better. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. And Vital Signs, bring student achievements to life. Thank you to all of our great sponsors. Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Educational AD Podcast, this time featuring the FIAAA Insider. Our guest today is Casey Thiele. He's a certified athletic administrator, and he's the director of athletics at Pensacola High School. Casey, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we're very excited. New district director for District 1, so we're glad that you're now part of the FIAAA team.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, as you know, the life of an athletic director is very busy, so we're going to jump right into it. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to school and college, and maybe a little bit about how your love of sports led to that first teaching and coaching job.
Sure. I'm a Nebraska farm boy originally, the oldest of 11 children. And my mom was the second youngest of 7 children. And I remember it real distinctly in the early 70s. I'm about 7, 8 years old, and my uncle came to visit me, and Nebraska won the national championship. And so we were watching that game, and I'm a little kid, and I love football. And then they said, well, your uncle here played for Nebraska. And he was Don Bowl was his name. And he was an All-American nose guard for Nebraska, got drafted in the 3rd round by the Washington Redskins, played 7 years for the Redskins, and won for the New York Giants. And so we watched Nebraska win the national championship, and he was at Memphis at that time. And so I'm learning all about this guy and watching it on TV. Well, then the Miami Dolphins went undefeated and won the Super Bowl. And he was a teammate. Don Shula was a defensive back on the Washington Redskins when my uncle was an offensive tackle. And so he started talking about Don Shula when he was a player, and he always had 2 suitcases with him, and he'd go to although he's a defensive back, he'd go to offensive meetings, and he'd study specialty teams. And I was listening to stories about this, and I remember going to bed after the Dolphins won the Super Bowl thinking, I like this coaching thing. And I love football and the characters and these larger-than-life people, and became fascinated with it, and I became a junkie. Now, my uncle was a huge human being, as we know offensive tackles in the NFL are, and I didn't think I'd get that big, and I was, and I'm about 250 pounds is my playing weight. But I got a chance to play for Midland University, NAI school, as a 4-year starter and defensive tackle. But I loved a lot of different things. We didn't have strength and conditioning back in the 80s like we do now. So I competed in powerlifting, and I was a 4-time state runner-up in the 275-pound weight class, and then I was a 2-time state champion finally in weightlifting, but also through the shot put and track, and finished 4th in our conference, my senior year. And so I had a very eclectic taste. I played baseball as well, and just really loved athletics. And anyway, so I started coaching at Midland, where I played, like a lot of guys do, started getting your experience. A lot of my family moved to South Carolina, and anyway, I got to live. I took a high school head football coach, athletic director in 1997. My first job, got to live the dream. They were 0-20 in football. We won 4 games the first year. 3rd year, we went to the state semifinals. 4th year, we won their only state championship. and then we went to the quarterfinals next year. I got married. My wife got a great job. We moved to Decatur, Alabama. So I got introduced to Alabama high school football at Austin High School. Then Midland called me and brought me back as the offensive coordinator. And then I moved to defensive coordinator. Head coach changed. They made me the head football coach. And I was there for 5 years, got an AFCA Coach of the Year award in 2010. We had a really great season, finished 21st in the country. And then in 2012, really felt I wanted to get back around my family. And that's where I went to the Jacksonville area, was a coach there for a while. And then Pensacola High, I got hired as an assistant football coach, but I got into administration. I was a dean at that time. 2 years later, I also became the athletic director, and now this is my 6th year at Pensacola High School as the athletic director and as an administrative dean. So like a lot of us that have been in college or in high school, it's quite the journey, and it's been great, all those experiences.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear the story and the paths of our ADs and how each one got to be where they're at. Along that journey, even back into your family and playing days, I'm sure there were some mentors. We always talk about the importance of leadership and mentorship. Who were some of your mentors growing up and in your career that you can still hear their voice today as you go about your job at Escambia High School, or excuse me, Pensacola High School?
It's very interesting that you say this. I'm a 1982 high school graduate. In 1981, my favorite football coach for us was Ralph Nelson. And he left education and went to work for Valmont Industries and irrigation, and it devastated me to lose the coach that I felt the most connected to. The guy that replaced him was Dwayne Carlson, and both of those guys in the last week I have had conversations with 30 some years later. And it was interesting that, and I've told that to when I've been a head coach and we've had assistant coaches leave and kids are disappointed that, those relationships form, and it blows me away. Both of those guys have been in my home in the last year, 30 some years, after that coaching change. And so it wasn't an opportunity to lose one. It was an opportunity to gain one, and the different, mentors. But, my entire adult life, those two guys have been in it. One that, retired from education, but one that was in it. And, it's interesting, the relationships, those lifelong relationships, that you build. And a lot of times, sometimes, especially as a kid, you think, wow, this is devastating. And at the end of the day, it becomes an opportunity to grow. And that's a good message.
Mm-hmm. Casey, you and I are about the same age. I'm a couple years older than you, but looking back, from your first jobs as teaching and coaching to, now as an athletic director for a public school, how have you seen the job of an athletic director change? What are some of the day-to-day things that are completely different now, maybe didn't even exist, say 20 years ago?
Yeah, in 1997, when I first became an athletic director, a lot of, you gave the head coach, hey, this is what you need to do, have these documents, make me a copy. We had a copy, done. It was a very short period of time. What's very prominent, because my phone's going off right now, we have a weather station on our campus. All 7 high schools in Escambia County, we have a weather station on our campus. So when lightning gets within 6 miles, or the 4 different, areas within that, we need to be inside, we need to be alerted. All of our coaches that are in season now have this weather app on their phone. They're getting pushes, with this. I've got to make sure that information is up to date, with our coaches changing from different sports, knocking, that off. So, geez, you've got the weather, then of course you've got the heat. We've become more and more aware of the issues with heat illness, lightning. I remember in 1979, I was a freshman in high school. Huddle got hit by lightning in Iowa, and it knocked down the referee and all 11 kids in the offensive huddle. Well, at that time, we stayed out there with lightning, and it didn't kill anybody. But that's where in Nebraska, they started changing after that happened. So, the weather issues with that. Right now, we've the paperwork. Now the kids this year, Pensacola High School, all Escambia schools were part of athletic clearance. So the families are uploading their documents right now. Then the coaches step in and they adjust their rosters, from a computer. We save everything. It's so much more of an administrative thing than it is before. Keeping track of all the videos for heat, concussion, policy 36 recruiting, educating all of your assistant coaches, your president of your booster club with recruiting violations and everything like that. It's much more administrative.
Oh, no question. Technology, the fact, what we're doing right now, just having a podcast, didn't exist. Let's talk a little bit about COVID. Certainly it's made its impact nationally as well as here in Florida. I think the one thing that we've seen is that there is no one response. Some states are going full speed ahead. Some are delaying, and we've seen our own response here in Florida. What are some things that you did back in March when COVID first hit with your own teams, your coaches, your kids, and then just looking at Pensacola High School, what are some things that are going on right now with your teams?
Well, I think we're fortunate at Pensacola High School because we're under Escambia County School District umbrella. So we've got great leadership from our superintendent, Malcolm Thomas. We, although we only have 7 schools, we do have a county athletic director, Roger Mayo, who's a very experienced human being. So when we left for spring break on a Friday, about 3 hours after we left school, we started getting phone calls. Hey, they're shutting school. They're shutting all athletics down. We're not returning to school. So we had left school and just a couple of hours later made the decision that we're not coming back, and we're going to go virtual and everything like that. Then cleaning the schools, setting up the protocols and everything like that. You were not, as an athletic director or a principal in our school system, you're not on an island. We were under an umbrella of good leadership. Also, I think Roger Mayo, our county athletic director, does a great job of staying in communication with everyone in the state. So what's Tampa area schools doing? What's Miami schools doing? What are the schools that are doing that are hit very hard? What are the schools doing that are very similar in size to our county that have the same resources? And so, by communicating with 67 different counties, school districts, we were able, I think, to come together and do a good job for our kids. And so that's the thing that hits me in top of my mind is good superintendent leadership, good county athletic leadership. You don't feel like you're on an island, you're part of a team.
Again, we understand that things are going to change, and it may have changed from the time this podcast is actually airing, but are your teams, your fall teams, are they conditioning right now since we're still kind of in summer, or are they are things on hold? No,
we're on phase 2. Now we have had at least one school that I can think of that is, we've had positive for a coach, so they're going to isolate, quarantine for 14 days. The school district will then communicate with the coach and gather the medical information, clear the coach for coming back in, which is, that's been done. It's a very fluid situation. So we're in phase 2 of summer. We're just conditioning, practicing social distancing, not in our locker rooms, cleaning everything, not sharing stuff. Our plan right now as a school district is by the 17th, or maybe a couple of days before that, to declare right now We're looking at the 24th as the first day of practice. And then I believe September 10th, roughly 3 weeks later, would be the first contest. But we'll decide 7 days before, roughly by the 17th, we'll decide, depending how the pandemic, how it's working in our area. Is it safe to come back? A week before we decide to come back, we'll make our final decision.
Now we're a few hours east of y'all and still in the Panhandle at McClay, but we've seen some different responses. The public school district, Leon County Schools here in Tallahassee, where I'm at, they recently announced that for the upcoming fall season, their schools will not travel outside of Leon County. Has there been any sort of announcements for the Escambia County schools as far as scheduling games for this fall?
Yeah, I think right now, and again, I think yes, I can speak a little bit, but I think our superintendent and our county athletic director would be more. We haven't put together yet a written public announcement. We do want to limit travel. We do want to limit exposure. We want to protect our coaches. We want to protect our fans. We want to protect our teachers. We want to protect our communities. And again, we'll decide finally by the 17th exactly what we're going to do. But we are looking at adjusting our schedule. Our schedules will be adjusted, obviously, because we didn't start on the 27th. September 4th was not going to be our first day. We're going to move those. So right now it's a fluid thing. Our county athletic director, Roger Mayo, has a plan for every sport, but it's got to be flexible, because if we keep increasing the number of cases and everything, then if we have to adjust, we can adjust. So he's working in concert with the other county, especially Santa Rosa County.
Yeah, I know. Of course, we understand how things that are happening right now, it could change tomorrow, next week, and certainly by next month. So it is very much a fluid situation. Let's go and shift gears a little bit. What are some of your favorite parts of the job? What gets you excited to get up each morning and come to school?
Well, one, I have a very talented, dedicated, group of coaches. I've got a new head cheerleader coach. I've got a new head boys soccer coach. They stick out in my mind because they're new to it. They're new to athletic clearance. They're new to home campus. They're new to our software. They're new to weather STEM. One of them is an MIT grad that's retired military. And just what a great interaction, such intelligent questions. And it's fun to work with intelligent, motivated adults that want to help kids and see kids succeed. The second thing is we're an IB school. So we have a general zone population of students that are here. It's a great group of kids. It really is. And then you see the IB kids, it's an interesting thing, because we send kids to Harvard, Yale, Ivy League schools, the best state schools, this school, that school, all across there's a lot of country club sports in there, and we've been very strong in a lot of those schools. But 2 years ago, we had 3 kids playing in the National Football League. We had McLean was playing for the Washington Redskins. Ladarius Randall was playing for the Browns as defensive back, and on the practice squad for the New England Patriots, we had 3 kids from our 2009 state championship team that were at different levels playing in the NFL. So we've got such an eclectic group of athletes, and the parents are it's a unique situation. So the kids are special, coaches are special, great teachers. Our principal, David Williams, this is his last year in education, but he played at Pensacola High School, played at Southern University, and then played a little bit for the Phoenix Suns. So we got an ex-NBA guy, that's our principal, and he loves athletics, but he's an IB school principal. So he's an extremely strong academic, guy as well. So everything from top to bottom is a pleasure to be here.
Oh, that is just great. I know from my school, it's great to have that support from the top. That it's definitely an academic institution, but they also understand the important part that athletics brings to the experience of all students, not just the athletes, but the students that come to the games. We frequently have a lot of young ADs that listen. Talk very briefly about your experience with the NIAAA certification program, the courses and the CAA exam, and then maybe a little bit about things that you feel you can help your area ADs with regard to being a district director for the FIAAA.
Yeah, well, one of the things that has struck me over the course of my career is sometimes if you're the athletic director, you're the head coach, a lot of times you're always projecting. And I remember probably about 9 or 10 years ago, I thought, I don't listen as well. It really shocked me. I just thought, I don't listen as well because I'm always, people, well, what do you want to do, coach? And here's my vision. And I'm always projecting, but I'm not taking things back in. And so, again, like you're saying, the classes, it's really good for me every year to take an online class or somehow to increase my education because I'm listening, I'm deciphering. I also want to try to address my weaknesses, with the class, whether it's law, whether it's heat, whether it's COVID, whether it's learning these new software systems with home campus, with athletic clearance, and on and on and on. I think that when you learn, you become a better teacher because you get that perspective with that. I think that you, if you're always internalizing your problems and never talking with someone about, hey, I'm doing this or how you're doing that, I don't think you're as good. So you always need to have, whether it's a study buddy, whether it's those mentors that I still have from 37 years ago, because a lot of times the problems don't change. It's almost like biblically, 2,000 years ago, we're still people. We still have the same, arguments. We still have the same where we're rubbing each other wrong and the way we can lift each other up. And like iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. And so we've got a great relationship with 7 athletic directors that yesterday we sat in a room with each other, with our mentor, our county athletic director. And there's always those side conversations. And I don't think that as a young AD, never feel uncomfortable talking with another athletic director. Hey, I've got a weakness. And a lot of times as athletics, never show weakness. Never show you got a limp, never show you got an injury, never show you got uncertainty. But I think, as an AD, you need to make sure that you address your weaknesses. And that's just, with interacting with other ADs. And so hopefully, I can give back what so many people have helped me with in the past.
Well, Casey, it's been a pleasure visiting with you. We've kind of come to the end, but we always like to wrap up with what we call the athletic director's toolbox. You're certainly an experienced veteran AD now, and your task is to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. But I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. What 3 items are going to go in Casey Thiele's athletic director toolbox?
I think that the first thing in my toolbox, obviously it's a personal thing. And it may not be the same thing. It may not be the right thing for you or the right thing for someone else. But what really strikes me is I got to have a journal. And I got to go from day to day. And if I write something down a little bit, just notes or whatever for what happened today, it ingrains things and helps me to organize my thoughts and having a to-do list with that. And I've got to do it handwritten. I can't do it on a Microsoft Word document or something like that. It just is better if I handwrite it. So I got to journal a little bit. Okay. The second thing is I've got to have a list of people that I can call to solve problems. So if I've got a transportation issue, who in the transportation department do I go to? Now I've got a great county AD, but you get spread out as an AD so much. You have to know who you call to get something solved and to do it quickly and to do it efficiently. So where is your help, coming from when you need that? And I think, going to the end, you just can't be organized enough. And as soon as you can get stuff done, you need to get stuff done as an AD. You cannot procrastinate in any way, shape, or form, or you're going to really be in trouble, from that standpoint. So don't procrastinate, know where your help's at, and then how are you going to organize your thoughts, which to me is a journal.
Great advice, my friend. Casey, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I know you've given us some great stuff for all ADs.
Yeah, well, I appreciate. Thank you for having me.
Well, listeners, thanks for tuning in. As always, please come back again next time for another edition of the Educational AD.